This is the city of St. Canard. Like any other major metropolis, it has its problems with the criminal element. Another order of dastardly delinquents deposited on your doorstep, courtesy of Darkwing Duck.
Hey, all my DWPs, where y'all at? Welcome to the St. Canard Files, a Darkwing Duck podcast. I'm your host, Will Santana, and
I'm your other host, Mike Russo, and I always forget the milk.
Oh, I get this one. That's a good pun right there, man. But hey, Mike, before we get into the episode, let's give them a little bit of news. And right now, what we got going on is there's a Facebook page called Growing Up in the 90s. And on that page, they are giving away 4 Darkwing Disney Afternoon comics. I believe it's the Marvel set, right?
Yes, those are actually very hard to find.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they're very hard to find, but they're not expensive. It's a 10 subscription, 10 issues part of this set. I believe most of them fare anywhere from $5 to about $20, except for 2 of them. Issue number 7 and issue number 10. Number 7 goes for about $30 to $60, and number 10 is this is the tough one, Mike. It goes for $200 to $300.
Yeah, the last installment of most comics tend to be like that because they usually don't get published very much. And these Marvel Disney Afternoon comics definitely flew under the radar when they first came out. I never had any of them myself.
Oh, you didn't? You never had these?
No, I had the Disney Comics issues, the Darkwing, Rescue Rangers, and Tailspin. I didn't have these.
Oh, okay. Issue number 10, I'm looking at it right now online, and issue number 10, there's one on eBay for $53, but it says it does have some spine damage and stuff like that.
Who wants that?
Well, I mean, if it's $200-300 is hard to come by, this might be your only option, you know?
No, that's true.
Or you get lucky like I did and, hit up some yard sales and, maybe some conventions and a person doesn't know what they have,
Yeah, you hit the jackpot.
Oh, yeah, man. I got a buddy who actually, this is way off subject here, guys. He caught a Funko Pop. It was a Freddy Funko Vault Boy Funko Pop. And on this website called PPG, it went for $220, and he got it for $6 because it was at a video game convention. The guy didn't know what it was. He said he was just trying to clear his room.
Don't you love it when you get lucky like that?
I know, right? But hey, Mike, enough about that. Oh, well, before we go on, guys, yeah, you can go on the Growing Up in the 90s page. All you have to do is like our Facebook page, the St. Canard Files page, Facebook page, and then go back to the Growing Up in the 90s and just leave a comment saying, "Let's get dangerous." That's it. And you have a shot to win it.
That's easy.
Yep, very easy. And shout out to Cody Blythe for publishing that up on his website, man, on his Facebook page. All right, so Mike, what episode are we doing today?
Well, today we are doing the first part of the Darkwing Duck origin story, Darkly Dawns the Duck Part 1.
And to most people, they consider this the pilot incorrectly, right?
Yeah, because most people usually just consider the first episode of any show a pilot. And it's funny, the air date for Darkly Dawns the Duck seems to be all over the place, to the best of my knowledge. Now, it originally aired as an hour-long television special. And it was... What was interesting about this, so let's go back a little bit.
Okay.
Now, when DuckTales first started, they did a 5-part origin serial. I'm sure most of our listeners have heard of this. It's the Treasure of the Golden Suns.
I love those episodes.
Those are fantastic. They produced those as 5 individual episodes. Then they took those 5 episodes, edited them down a little bit, so they would fit into a 2-hour time slot, and aired it in prime time. So there was a TV movie version of Treasure of the Golden Suns that was missing lots of scenes, was a lot shorter. And they did that for all the DuckTales serials. They did that for Time is Money and Super DuckTales. But for Darkwing Duck, they only produced a 2-part origin serial. And to fit that in an hour time slot, each episode was made longer. So that when they aired in syndication, they had to edit those. So on Sunday, September 8th, at least in my area, is when the entire Darkly Dawns the Duck television movie aired. Some sources say Friday, September 6th. I see a source that says Saturday the 7th, but Disney themselves seems to go with the 8th. That was a Sunday. And that aired along with a preview of the new Mickey Mouse Club show, which I know nothing about. I never saw it because I think that aired on the Disney Channel. And I think the Kicking in the Groove video also premiered during that special as well. And the first part of Darkly Dawns the Duck, which I also definitely should mention that, like that sinking feeling, this episode was also written by Tad Stones himself. I mean, nobody knows these characters more than Tad does, so it's fitting he wrote not the pilot, I should say, the origin episodes. He's Darkwing's dad, as we've established. So unfortunately, the version of this episode that most people have now, the one that's aired on TV for almost 30 years, the one that's on DVD, is edited. And the biggest edit of this episode is this fantastic minute-long opening sequence.
And I love that opening sequence. I only saw it on YouTube, man.
There's only 2 ways to see it. Yes, on YouTube. Luckily, the unedited hour-long special was released on VHS in 1993. I have that tape. I'm very thankful I have that tape. Because unless you taped it when it aired, that's the only way to legally own this.
Well, I need you to send me your address and everything so I can know when you're not home and get that VH copy, because I don't own that one, man.
I have those tapes in storage, actually. And, yeah, a lot of people were upset when the DVDs came out and the versions of Darkly Dawns the Duck and the Tailspin pilot, Plunder and Lightning, were the edited syndicated versions. A lot of people were upset. Disney doesn't care. Why would they do this? We want to see the whole thing. But I just think Disney grabbed the syndicated episodes, had no idea they were edited, and that's just what they use now, Yeah. But back to that opening. I mean, what do you think of that opening?
Oh, it's amazing. And the thing is, I didn't see it till like 20 plus years later, man. So I missed out. It's a great opening, and it's a different opening, and it's a fun opening because it's a lot of action involved in it,
Yeah, like if somebody said, show me a minute that defines Darkwing Duck, I would show them that opening. Because
that's a good one.
And if anybody hasn't seen it and has always wondered about that shot at the end of the theme song with the rat catcher jumping into the flatbed truck and the 2 thieves flying up and falling into the trash can, that is from this opening.
Oh, yeah.
Because I spent 2 years wondering what that last shot was from. Because I hadn't seen it. And when I did see it, I was like, oh, that makes sense. That was my thought. But this opening is fantastic. I mean, first of all, this is another episode that was animated in Australia by the Sydney team. And this is their best animation in this entire episode. I think it might be their best Darkwing animation, period. I mean, there's so much going on here. He's driving the rat catcher like a madman. He's using the grappling hook on the gas gun. I love this bit where he's dragging behind the 2 motorcycles, and the pig on the motorcycles trailing behind him, and he lifts up a manhole cover. The pig hits the manhole, and the motorcycle explodes into a million pieces. And it's so well done. And it shows how tough Darkwing can be, because he beats these guys.
Oh, yeah.
But it also shows that he can make mistakes, too.
Oh, yeah. And when Mike said pig, he's not talking about the police either.
No, they come later. No, it's the pig motorcyclist, and he actually comes back in part 2. So it's funny that you don't see him if you're watching the edited version. So in part 2, when he comes back and he says payback time, you were only lucky the last time. he's referencing the opening that most people haven't seen.
Yeah.
So, yeah, we have this opening, which it's like you watch the episode as it's edited now, and right after the opening title, Darkly Dawns the Duck, immediately we're at the police station with the crooks.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a shame because there's this great scene they cut out. But, what are you going to do? But anyway, we have Darkwing coming in, and take it from here, Will. Talk about how Darkwing is presented in this origin.
To me, it's kind of similar as that seeking feeling. You get him like creeping around, but this time he's more on the rat catcher, but he doesn't have a name yet. So it's like he's hyping himself up. Like he even referenced himself as Darkwing Duck like 20 times this episode in third person,
Yeah, he has to shove his business card in the police officer's face.
Yeah, so it's like basically, he dumps them off and then he walks out and like there's no media, nobody knows who he is. Poor Darkwing, he's trying to be a vigilante and no one knows who he is. Well, I'm not gonna say no one. He's just not famous yet. He's not out there. He's not on the radar.
Right now, he's just some nut job in a cape picking up thugs off the street.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, according to him, he's never had a shot at a big-time criminal. So this is before Megavolt. This is before Bushroot. This is before Negaduck. He hasn't met any of these characters yet, and he's never met a big-time criminal. No, he's just used to picking up petty thugs.
Yeah. Now, Mike, this obviously isn't the pilot. But ever since you schooled me a couple of months ago on what the pilot was, right. Are you okay if I reference this as the prequel pilot?
Sure.
Yeah, I kind of ever since you schooled me on that, I'm like, I can't get the title pilot off of this one, so it's now a prequel pilot.
Sure.
Okay, because to me it is a prequel.
Right. I mean, like I said last time, these two episodes have pretty high production numbers. They were produced. They were started pretty late because, like I said, the writers have to know these characters to make this origin work.
Mm-hmm.
And that doesn't really pay off in this episode, but it definitely does in the next one.
Oh, yeah. Okay, so basically, Darkwing's trying to get out there. He locks these guys up, and then he heads back to the base. And we see him practice, his kung fu and preparing his meal and stuff, which is fun.
The breakfast routine.
Oh, yeah.
That's a stroke of genius. Like the last thing he does before going to bed is eat breakfast. And he does it like a workout.
Mm-hmm.
That's so clever. And I love how it comes back later.
Yeah. And then don't they switch the Taurus after that? The Taurus Bulba?
Yeah, we switch over to Taurus Bulba, yeah.
And he's in prison.
Yes, he's operating in a prison. Now, who plays Taurus Bulba?
Oh, man. The legend.
Yeah.
I hope he gets healthy right now, man. I heard he's not doing too well.
No, I did too. He had a stroke, I believe.
Yeah, drop his name, Mike.
Yeah, Tim Curry, the legend, like you said. Tim Curry, he was in one of my favorite roles he was in was the Muppet Treasure Island, but that's just me. I'm a huge Muppet fan. He was Long John Silver. He was in Rocky Horror Picture Show. He was on Home Alone 2. What else was he in? He was in Clue. Absolutely, yeah. He was in Clue. And he did lots of voice work for Disney during this time. I think he did voice work on Aladdin, several other shows. And he is great as Taurus Bulba.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Yeah, and Taurus has like a cover-up. They're supposed to be doing like license plates, I guess.
Yeah, he's in prison. He's just hanging out, and the warden's picking on him.
When I saw this, of course not when I first saw this the first time, because I saw it way late in the run when it first came out. Right. But when I saw this more like in the last 5 to 8 years, it reminded me of Pablo Escobar. Like he was in his own prison doing what he want, living ghetto fabulous, and it was like, yeah, the warden thinks he got me, just let him have that, but overall I still run this. I'm doing what I want.
Yeah, I mean, this prison's worse than Duckburg's prison. I mean, he's got his lackeys, he's got his secretary, he has a condor in there, and nobody notices.
Yes, and then he sends Hammerhead, Mouth, and Hoof,
Hoof.
right?
Yeah.
Hoof. Okay, and he sends them out to go get the ramrod.
Yeah, the Waddlemeyer Ramrod.
Mm-hmm.
And we could talk a bit about those lackeys. So first we have Hammerhead. He's what is he? A goat? A ram?
I thought he was a ram.
I would say a ram. And who is he voiced by?
Oh, I'm not sure.
He's voiced by Hal Rail. He's a
yeah.
voice actor.
Mm-hmm.
And what's most interesting to me, I only found this out researching him. He is married to Maggie Roswell, who did up to a few years ago all the female voices on The Simpsons.
Wow.
Mrs. Hoover, Helen Lovejoy, Maud Flanders. I had no idea he was married to her.
Wow.
And speaking of voice actors on The Simpsons, we also have Clovis, Taurus Bulba's secretary, who doesn't have much to say, but she is voiced by Marsha Wallace. She played Edna Krabappel, also on The Simpsons. And again, we have another voice actress. Rest in peace. She passed away a few years ago. And she plays 2 roles in this episode. And the other character she plays we'll get to.
Yeah, we'll get to it in a minute.
And then we have Mouth. He's a short little ram who doesn't shut up. And he is voiced by Eddie Deason. And who's Eddie Deason, Will?
Grease.
Yes, he was in Grease. He was in 1941.
Oh, yeah, he was on the Ferris wheel, wasn't he?
Yes.
Yes, I remember that.
His first role was in the movie Laser Blast, a really terrible 1970s movie that Mystery Science Theater fans will be aware of. Younger fans might know him from one of the obnoxious kid from the Polar Express movie.
Mm-hmm. Oh, he sure did that voice.
But I would say animation fans know him best as Mandark from Dexter's Lab from Cartoon Network.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's how I know him best, honestly. And he's Mouth. And then we have Hoof, who doesn't say a word. And I don't know why, but he doesn't.
Mm-hmm.
And so there's our villains and the Condor Tantalus.
Oh yeah.
So we can't forget the Condor.
Yeah, and that's when Darkwing gets involved in all of this, when he sees the Condor.
He sees the Condor flying by.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. And there is another scene when Darkwing takes off after the Condor that was edited out of the syndicated version. Darkwing is spending so much time watching the Condor, he almost gets hit by a truck.
Oh, I never saw that.
Yeah, he's watching the Condor, and then he looks over, and the truck is barreling down on him, and he has to go around the truck, and a guy pokes out and tells him to watch it.
Mm-hmm.
So that's been cut out too. And so we get to the train, and what happens next?
The train, he sees. Well, before Darkwing gets there, Hoof and Mouth, they take over these 2 soldiers. Now, I did catch a blooper here. I guess because I'm in the military and it caught my eye right away. The 2 soldiers that they kidnap and take their clothes, they were holding rifles. But when the scene switched back over to Hoof and Mouth, they're holding machine guns.
Interesting.
Yeah, it was a small, quick blooper. I don't know if it's because I'm in the military, or I was in the military, or because I played Call of Duty a lot, or Battlefield.
Interesting. I never would have noticed that.
Yeah, it really caught my eye, because I know the difference between rifles and submachine guns,
I spend so much time looking for the most insignificant stuff, like scenes where Darkwing's mask isn't colored in. They're using completely different guns from shot to shots. I'd never even noticed it.
Yeah.
That's funny, Will. I've never even noticed that shot. Mm-hmm. That's crazy.
Yeah, so then when they switch uniforms with the soldiers, Darkwing notices who it is, and he gets so excited. Like, this is my chance to get all over the news coverage, to get on the newspapers, because they work for Taurus Bulba.
Right.
And Taurus Bulba is a villain on a whole different level, and this is going to put me on the map.
Right. And we get you know what we should do, Will? We should catalog all of his entrances.
Okay.
We should say what they are. So this time, I guess I'll do this one. This entrance is, I am the switch that derails your train, which is appropriate, actually. Usually his entrances have something to do with what's going on, and this one certainly does. And he gets shot point blank by the machine guns. Mm-hmm. Again, like the last episode, I don't think they would do that today.
Oh, of course not.
Absolutely not. But he's fine.
Mm-hmm.
He bounces back like Darkwing Duck does and finds himself up in midair.
Yeah. Hammerhead got a good lick on him too.
Oh right, absolutely. Yeah, he gets some.
He got him really good. But Darkwing recovered from it, and pretty much he didn't he stop it from them? No, they did get the device, but they didn't get the code.
Yeah, they have the ramrod in the train car with a large pair of wings on top of the car flying it away. But what they need is the code. But before we get there, Darkwing crashes into an airplane hangar and meets somebody.
Oh man, the legendary voice actor Terry McGovern, Launchpad McQuack.
Right, and Launchpad, he takes one look at Darkwing and he is over the moon.
Oh, he's a fanboy.
He is a huge fanboy. He has a whole scrapbook of his newspaper clippings. Of course, it's not a very big scrapbook, but
yeah, Darkwing sees he's a pilot and needs a ride, you know.
What's significant about the plane they're flying in?
Oh, do you really? Oh my God, it's significant because it was in the DuckTale episodes.
Yes, it's Launchpad's Joyrider.
The Joyrider, man, and this is a teaser because Darkwing sees the Joyrider and he immediately wants to get on there, but Launchpad lets him know he has something better in the other hangar. But Darkwing's not patient. We can't give it away
Darkwing cannot wait.
Oh man, so like I love seeing the Joyride. I love that they brought the Joyrider in and they gave her a teaser of what was gonna be a classic vehicle, you know. Right. But we can't see it yet. Like, hold on, not yet.
One thing I will say about Launchpad, his flying abilities get better as the series go on, but not in this episode.
Oh no,
he can't even fly straight.
Yeah, he was flying backward.
He's crashing through houses. He's a complete disaster area in this episode.
Yeah, which is good though because this is the last time I remember seeing the Joyrider, ain't it?
He gets into a plane that's very similar in Duck Blind when they go to the Invention Museum. But this is the last time his plane is actually seen. And in the new DuckTales, he's flying a different plane entirely.
Okay, but it was good to see the Joyrider. The Joyrider is a classic plane, especially with Launchpad, and to bring it over, even though it's only in this episode for a couple of minutes, it's just that nostalgia, you know, is there for the hardcore fans, you know.
It's a shout out to Launchpad's roots for sure.
Yeah, definitely.
So the villains get away, unfortunately, and I love that shot where they fly through somebody's house and Darkwing comes out with a bra stuck to him. And so Darkwing tells Launchpad they aren't a team. He wants nothing to do with them and storms off. So that's the end of that for now. So Taurus Bulba needs the arming code for the Waddlemeyer Ramrod, and unfortunately his idiot goons killed Professor Waddlemeyer. And he has a granddaughter. What is her name, Will?
Gosling Mal? Well, no, just Gosling. Yeah, not yet.
Gosling Waddlemeyer. And Taurus Bulba is hardcore. His instructions are kidnap the kid, get the code, and then kill her. So
he's not wasting no time.
Because I don't think even like Negaduck came close, but most villains don't pay Gosling much attention. Taurus Bulba wants to specifically go after her and kill her, and that's pretty dramatic. He does not play around. So then here we are at the St. Canard Orphanage, and we meet another character voiced by Marsha Wallace, who I think this might be my favorite scene in the episode in terms of humor, when Mrs. Kavanaugh is the orphanage director, and Gosling comes in, and she tells Gosling to sit down, and Gosling says, "I'm sorry, Mrs. Kavanaugh, I know nothing about a pig, and I was nowhere near the boys' bathroom at the time."
She gave herself away, man.
I can't even imagine what she did.
Well, Mike, explain the Miss Kavanaugh name, though, man.
Miss Kavanaugh, well, Gosling was voiced by a voice actress, rest in peace, gone way too soon, named Christine Kavanaugh. So Mrs. Kavanaugh shares her name.
I think they purposely did that for that one scene. I
think so too. Kavanaugh isn't common, and it definitely it must be a reference for sure.
Oh yeah. And for most people who if you're not new to I mean, if you are new to Darkwing, Christine Cavanaugh voiced also Chucky from Rugrats.
Yes, she voiced. Hey, funny enough, we have another Dexter's Lab alumni. Christine Cavanaugh also voiced Dexter.
Mm-hmm.
And she was Babe the Pig. A few other characters. I think Gosling's her best role, but I think most people gravitate toward Chucky because that's the character she did the longest. And Chucky was cool, but Gosling's close to my heart.
Oh yeah. So yeah, man. After that happens, Hammerhead tries to take Gosling and says, "Hey, I'm a friend of the family. I want to just take her out and have a chit chat with her since her grandfather's gone, and he takes her out and she starts catching on to what's happening. And I love the line she says, "No way, Jose."
I like it gets a little emotional, which is sweet. How she talks about how, she makes friends in the orphanage, but then she has to say goodbye to them when they get adopted. And she insists she isn't a problem child. She just has spirit. Mm-hmm. And that's really sweet because that comes back too. And Gosling definitely reminds me of my own daughter, who definitely has a lot of spirit too. Yeah. And then she catches on. They're gonna kidnap her. Mm-hmm. And what's great, she tells them nobody kidnaps Gosling Waddlemeyer, and then Darkwing zips by and grabs her.
Yeah, she just got kidnapped.
But she does not go down without a fight. She's just punching him right in the gut.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, man. So it was cool, like to see her little backstory of being in the orphanage, and then seeing her first connection with Darkwing when he comes and rescues her, even though she doesn't realize she's being rescued.
Yeah, she thinks Darkwing's another one of the thugs.
Yeah. And so then, go ahead.
No, another great bit. Darkwing says the orphanage isn't safe, but she'll be plenty safe at the police station. And they get there, and the police open fire with as many guns as they've got. Gosling goes, "Oh yeah, I feel real safe now." But again, man, you got guns flying. Hammerhead and his goons are firing their guns. There's bullets whizzing everywhere. They're firing like a huge bazooka at him. Mm-hmm. I mean, there's a lot of lethal force going on right here.
Oh yeah. So after that, Darkwing takes her back to the base, right?
Yeah, they dive into the Audubon Bay and disappear.
Mm-hmm. And he wanted to put her in a hotel room, for what I remember.
He wanted to put her in an animal shelter.
Oh man, he was trying to get rid of her, and then she got smart and said, "Well, hey, if you dump me there, I might squeal where your base is and where your hideout is."
Well, she's a kid. She's supposed to be irresponsible. Uh-huh. And what's really telling is Gosling immediately assumes Darkwing and Taurus Bulba know each other and are mortal enemies. Mm-hmm. And Darkwing is so humiliated. He's just like, he doesn't even know I exist. And, Bulba does, and it's Darkwing's gonna get lower before he gets any higher, but that's in the next episode. But it's funny that Darkwing, he wants to build himself up as this well-known crime fighter. Mm-hmm. Nobody knows who he is.
Yeah, and then I believe it switches back to Taurus, right?
Yeah, one last time,
and then that's when he reveals that he can do whatever he wants. And, Hammerhead and them, they're in trouble because they screwed up. They didn't get Gosling. And basically, he lets the warden know, like, I've been running this the whole time.
Yeah, he bursts out of jail his flying cow ship.
Uh-huh. And before he bursts out, it's like the warden is leaving work for the day, and he's just bragging, living up, I got Taurus Bulba,
Yeah. And then when he flies off, one of the officers goes, I guess he's been making more than license plates. Uh-huh. I remember being 12 and my father, rest in peace, cracked up at that line.
Oh, man.
So I'll never forget that.
Yep. And then it says to be continued, right?
Yeah, and his last lines, it's time I met this Darkwing duck.
Oh,
Darkwing's going to get it, and he has no idea.
Mm-hmm. I wish I would have saw this episode in the full length without the to be continued, because it leaves you hanging, man.
Yeah, I mean, luckily part 2 aired the next day when it finally did air on the Disney afternoon. which I've got it listed sometime in early November of that year. It finally did air. I don't have an exact date.
Mm-hmm.
It aired after Ghoul of My Dreams, but before Adopticon, sometime after Halloween, and I can't pin down the date.
Okay.
That's when it first aired, all chopped up on the Disney afternoon.
Okay, so overall, Mike, man, how did you feel about this episode?
I love this episode because it does such a great job setting up the characters and their relationships. I mean, That Sinking Feeling did that with characters you're supposed to understand already know each other, but here they're meeting each other for the first time.
Oh, yeah.
So it's more important to really set up who Goslin is, who Launchpad is. I mean, more so Goslin, but we get a lot of that in the next episode.
Yeah. And I like it also that Darkwing is not a superhero yet. You know, he's not on the map. He's not known.
Yeah, he's a nobody.
Mm-hmm.
And I love Taurus Bulba because he's so unique. Most of Darkwing's enemies are either insane or misguided or misunderstood. Bulba's none of that. He's just a kingpin who's a big mountain of strength, and he murders people to get what he wants.
Mm-hmm.
And he's in control, and he's smart. And that's very rare for Darkwing Duck to have all of those qualities together. I mean, Negaduck's dangerous, but he's insane.
Mm-hmm. And not counting part 2, how many more times do we see Taurus Bulba? Like maybe once or twice, right?
Once.
Okay.
Once, the very end of the series.
Okay, so we got a while before we get back to Taurus Bulba.
Yeah, but the episode he appears in is worth waiting for. Because if you're gonna bring him back, you gotta build up to it. You have to do right by a character like this.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, I didn't mention. Did you know this Darkly Dawns the Duck was adapted as a comic book?
Yes, that I did know.
Yeah, the 4 issues that the miniseries, Disney Comics in '91. Yeah, that was an adaptation of Darkly Dawns the Duck. And luckily, Boom Comics reprinted that a few years ago. I don't know how easy it is to get that compilation, but it's out there.
The Disney one, that one's not too bad. I actually have that set, and I didn't even collect that one until about 2 years ago, and I got them all under $10. They're not hard. They're not expensive either.
The Disney comic stuff is out there and pretty easy to get.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think I had a more widespread run than the Marvel ones did. We're going to do an episode entirely about Darkwing comics, so I'm not going to talk any more about it. But what's interesting, one thing I will say is the artist, his name was John Blair Moore, who also passed away recently. He had said he was just given a storyboard for this episode and, adapted it however he could. And if you read the comic, he comes up with new dialogue and some new scenes. And it's interesting because he had a really great style.
Yeah.
The drawings are pretty funny. He adapts it pretty well. And I recommend it. Like, if you like these episodes, the comic is very close and even adds a few things.
Mm-hmm. And this is our farewell to the Joyrider, man.
Yep. Definitely.
But it's worth it.
I mean, he totals it, so that's gone.
Yeah, but it is worth it what we get coming up.
But Launchpad totals lots of vehicles, so that's par for the course with Launchpad McQuack.
Okay.
And yeah, it's a good episode. I love Taurus Bulba. I think the Australian animation's really good. And we got a lot of voice actors. Tim Curry, Hal Rale, Marsha Wallace, Eddie Deason, and of course Christine Cavanaugh, Jim Cummings, and Terry McGovern. It's like a who's who in this episode.
Yeah. So, Mike, on a scale 1 through, or my bad, not a scale, how many gas canisters are you going to give this episode?
What did we say last time? A scale of 1 to 4?
1 through 5.
1 through 5.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to give this 3.5 gas canisters because the next episode is even better than this. So I don't want to rate this one too highly. How about you?
I was going to give it a 3. And the reason why I dropped it, even though you get the great origin, it didn't have the ending. The great, yeah, it leaves you with the cliffhanger, which is good in a way if you like cliffhangers and all that. But I kind of felt like it was getting to it, and then like it cuts you off. Like we were about to get into the full blown action, more stuff going to happen. Darkwing getting his name out there, so it was like we got the introduction and all that, and there was lots of joke. but I don't, like you said, I'm with you. I don't want to give it a full scale score because of what's coming up on the second part.
Yeah, the first and second parts are very different in tone. This one's more lightweight. It's got the chase scenes. It's funny. There isn't as much emotion, so it's a more lightweight episode. It's the next one that's a much, much heavier episode and gives us a lot more to talk about. But I'm also rating this with that phenomenal opening sequence in mind. If I had to rate it without the opening, I would probably knock it down to 3 gas canisters.
That's probably why I gave it a 3. I wasn't even thinking of the original, theme, the original opening.
See, I'm crazy. What I do before I watch this episode, I queue up the original opening on my smart TV on YouTube, play that, and then immediately switch to the DVD. Because I cannot watch this without the opening. I feel like so much is lost without it.
Okay, now what would you score Taurus Bulba as a villain?
As a villain? Are we using the same rating scale?
Yes, we are.
Well, in terms of effectiveness and threat, he's pretty high. I'd give him 4. In terms of my favorites, I'd say 3. Because, he's not Megavolt or Negaduck, and he definitely isn't Quackerjack.
Yeah.
But what he is probably the most clever and most dangerous villain Darkwing's ever fought.
Oh, yeah. I'm going to give him a 4. Maybe actually, you know what? I'm going to give him a 4.5 because I want to save my half for you-know-who.
Of course.
Yeah, so nobody could get the full-fledged 5. I'm saving that for one villain in particular.
Well, it's not playtime yet, Will.
Oh, man.
I know. We have a while. We have a few weeks in terms of episode air dates, which means we have quite a few months in terms of when we're getting to this one. So.
And when we get to him, guys, I'm gonna let you know right now, I am biased. I don't care. He is my villain. So that is my baby.
I'm gonna be that way with Negaduck and Megavolt. Maybe not to the same extent, but just wait till we get to those guys. For sure. So that's Darkly Dawns the Duck Part 1. It's important. It's a great intro to the characters, and it's a good one.
Yeah, I enjoy it, man. I wish I could have saw it in the full movie length version, for 1 hour, because to me, I could do it. Even though it's a cartoon, I would have had loved to see it for a full hour and just called it a movie.
Yeah, I like I said, I did not see it when it aired. I caught the very end of it, the special version, and didn't watch this part of the episode until it aired in syndication. Then I didn't see the opening scene until the VHS tapes came out. So I had I didn't have to wait as long as you did, but I didn't see it right away. It was the one bit of Darkwing Duck I missed when it first aired.
Okay.
The one solitary piece of Darkwing Duck I didn't catch when it aired originally. And the one thing I didn't tape.
So, Mike, it's a given. We already know what episode. Just let them know what episode we're going to review next.
So, next time we've got Darkly Dawns the Duck Part 2. And, that's going to be a good one, too.
Oh, yeah. I can't wait for that one now. Mike, tell them where the people can find you.
You can find me on Facebook at Mike Russo. Like I always say, there's a lot of them out there, but you should find me pretty quick. And message me, friend me. I'll accept it. And where can they find you, Will? I'm Will Santana on Facebook. I'm Will Santana Films on Twitter. I don't use my Twitter, so you might not want to contact me on there. I never go on that thing. And then we also have a Facebook page, the St. Canard Files, a Darkwing Duck podcast fan page. You guys can like it. We post something pretty much daily. Seems like we've been posting daily on there. We are, yeah. Yeah, and your character of the week is actually doing really good, man. I saw a lot of likes on there, people interacting with it, so... Yeah, we did Moliarty for That Sinking Feeling, which went up last week. And, people like it. We're going to do that for every episode. So by the time this one goes up, the character of the week will have been up the day before. That's how we're going to do this. Episodes, we hope, will go up on Monday morning, and the character of the week will be up on Sunday as like a preview of what to expect. Oh, yeah. To whet your appetite a bit. And guys, just a reminder, if you can, go on that Growing Up in the 90s Facebook page. Take a chance. Win those for the Disney Afternoon Darkwing comics, man. It's free. It's a chance to win something. All you got to do is click a like button and leave a comment. Not hard. if you win 4 of them, I mean, there are only 10 issues. I mean, issue 10's hard, but it's a start. You get 4, you only need 6 more.
All right, well, this is gonna wrap it up for this episode, y'all. So y'all make sure stay dangerous.
Yep, stay dangerous. Have a good night.
Good night, y'all.